It's 11 p.m. and these are today's news. Army General Said Shingriha, Chief of Staff of People's National Army, arrived today in the capital Riyadh as part of an official visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in order to attend the second edition of the World Defense Show. Ahmed Attaf handed over a written message of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, to the Chairman of Libya's Presidential Council while reiterating Algeria's readiness to contribute through its position within the Security Council to accelerate the achievement of a Libyan solution. U.S. Department spokesman Matthew Miller affirmed his country's regret towards the withdrawal of the Malian authorities from the Peace and Reconciliation Agreement in Mali, resulting from Algiers' process, while highlighting that it could have achieved stability for all Malians. The Makhzen regime and the Zionist entity share the same policies towards innocent civilians in Western Sahara and Palestine. Details later on. We start off today's news, and as a representative of the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Army General Said Shingriha, Chief of Staff of People's National Army, arrived today in the capital Riyadh as part of an official visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in order to attend the proceedings of the second edition of the World Defense Show in Riyadh, an exhibition that will start tomorrow and would last until the 8th of the current month. Upon his arrival at the King Khalid International Airport, Army General was received by Lieutenant General Commander of Royal Saudi Air Forces Mazid bin Salman Al Amro. This visit of the Army General Said Shingriha at the head of a military delegation will be an opportunity to visit Saudi Armed Forces bodies and meet with officials to study ways and strengthen bilateral cooperation and discuss issues of common interest. Still with cooperation, and as a special envoy of the President of the Republic, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community abroad, Ahmed Attaf, was received today in Tripoli by the Chairman of Libya's Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus al-Menfi, to whom he handed over a written message from his brother, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. The meeting was an opportunity to review the state and prospects of the Algerian-Libyan relations and to pay tribute to the historic fraternal and solidarity-based ties between the two brotherly countries and peoples. It was also an opportunity to tackle several regional and international files of common interest, such as the Palestinian cause, alongside the latest developments in Gaza Strip, as well as security and political developments in the Saharan Sahel region. With regard to the situation in Libya, a brotherly country, Attaf reiterated Algeria's readiness to contribute through its position within the Security Council to defending the concerns and priorities of the Libyan brothers with a view to accelerating the achievement of a Libyan solution that would put an end to the crisis. At the end, the President of the Libyan Presidential Council sent his greetings to the President of the Republic, as well as his willingness to meet him soon in the hope of pursuing together coordination in favor of the interests and aspirations of the two brotherly countries and peoples. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community abroad, Ahmed Attaf, held also talks today with Tahar Al-Baour, head of management of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in the Libyan Government of National Unity. On this occasion, the two parties reviewed the priorities of bilateral cooperation on the economic, political and social levels in anticipation of upcoming bilateral events, notably the Grand Joint Commission. The two parties also discussed development on the Libyan scene with regard to the political process for resolving the crisis under the aegis of the UN, as well as the efforts made by the African Union to promote Libyan international reconciliation. U.S. Department spokesman Matthew Miller affirmed in a press conference his country's regret towards the withdrawal of the Malian authorities from the Peace and Reconciliation Agreement in Mali, resulting from Algiers' process, while highlighting that it could have achieved stability for all Malians. Let's have a listen.
The transition government's withdrawal from the Algiers Accord, which, if fully implemented, would have provided more stability for all Malians and the whole region. We remain concerned by the resumption of hostilities and the risk of returning to civil war among the signatory armed groups to the Algiers Accord and the transition government, including its Wagner Group partners.
Today, the Minister of Communication, Mohamed Lagab, supervised the kickoff of the National Symposium for Directors of National Channels and Regional Stations of National Radio. The meeting was attended by the advisor to the President of the Republic in charge of the General Directorate of Communication of the Presidency of the Republic, Canal Said, Head of the Audiovisual Control Authority, Mohamed Lobar, Director General of the National Radio, Mohamed Baghali, alongside directors of regional stations and the ministry's executives. The role of local radio stations in embodying a media closer to the citizen so that it'll be the sincere voice before the state and central authorities was tackled. And for his part, the advisor to the President of the Republic, Canal Said, emphasized the priority given by the President in order to reform the audiovisual sector and activate its role. In the occupied Palestinian authorities now, and after 120 days of the Zionist aggression against Gaza, the Zionist occupation committed 12 massacres and intense bombardments targeting various areas of Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza announced that the toll of the Zionist aggressions on the Strip since October 7th has risen to more than 27,000 martyrs and more than 66,000 wounded. The Palestinian Red Crescent called on the international community to intervene immediately in order to provide protection for the staffs working at the headquarters of its association and Al Amal Hospital in Khan Younis. These two have been subjected to bombings for 12 days. It takes part as the UN Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs expressed its deep concern regarding the escalation of the Zionist aggression in the city of Khan Younis, which forced more Palestinians to flee to the city of Rafah. Causing $60 billion worth of economic losses, the Houthis' attacks have severely affected the economy of the Zionist entity. Moreover, these events have had significant consequences on the strategic shipping lanes in the region. Manamah.
With estimated losses of $60 billion, the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea pose a significant economic challenge for the Zionist entity, which has witnessed a shake-up in its economy. The strategic maritime routes of the Bab el-Mandeb and the Gulf of Aden hold crucial importance for global trade towards the Middle East, constituting approximately 12% of world trade. This amplifies the repercussions of these attacks on the regional and global economy.
The ongoing massacres in Gaza appear to be profoundly costly for the Zionist entity, both financially and militarily. The losses within the military are significant, described as devastating.
The disturbances in the crucial maritime routes of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden have a substantial impact on the Zionist entity, disrupting the supply of essential goods and resulting in significant import costs and unprecedented inflation. These disruptions affect the primary trade corridor used by ships heading towards the Middle East and Zionist ports. These economic pressures pose a challenge for Zionist policymakers, and the actions of the Houthis are seen as a means of exerting pressure on the Zionist entity and its allies, notably the United States. This also aligns with a perspective of solidarity with the Palestinian cause and the desire to put an end to the ongoing genocide. Major Western powers such as the United States and the United Kingdom are planning to deploy a naval vessel to protect ships heading towards the occupied lands of Palestine. However, despite utilizing routes in the Red Sea, navigation is hindered by various obstacles. While efforts have been made to stabilize maritime navigation, persistent fluctuations in the Bab el-Mandeb region, including the Suez Canal, will continue to influence maritime traffic due to the strategic importance of the area. This is especially crucial considering that a quarter of the world's oil production comes from Gulf countries, requiring passage through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Suez Canal to reach Europe and Asia. Requiring passage through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Suez Canal to reach Europe and Asia, the Houthi attacks on Zionist, British and US ships have had significant repercussions on the Zionist economy, as well as the US and British policies in the region. Experts suggest that this could heighten the risks of an escalation of the conflict, particularly with the ongoing violence in Gaza, potentially leading to a regional war that could be challenging to contain both regionally and globally.
Palestine and Western Sahara, two different countries suffering the same apartheid and the same inhuman colonial policy. The Muslim regime and the Zionist entity share the same policies towards innocent civilians. Yasin Hamdi.
Two sides of the same coin. That's the least we can say about the actions of two colonial forces, the Mahzen and the Zionist entity. That's what can explain the rapprochement between two criminal regimes that keep murdering innocent civilians. The way the Mahzen treats the Sahrawi people in the occupied Western Sahara territories is no different from the way the Zionist entity treats the Palestinians. The same inhuman actions, such as the deportation and the displacement of the original inhabitants of these occupied lands. Over the years, Morocco used subventions and tax exonerations in order to convince thousands of its inhabitants to settle in the occupied Sahrawi towns depopulated of their inhabitants in the aim to consolidate the control over Western Sahara and create a demographic imbalance. This policy is also applied by the Zionist entity that uses all the ways to deport Palestinians from Gaza to Sinai before deporting the inhabitants of the West Bank to Jordan. The Mahzen and the Zionist entity share also the apartheid policy. These two colonizers are the only regimes in the world to build walls of shame in Palestine and Western Sahara. Walls that have been built by the same Zionist architects. What a coincidence. In addition to that, these two colonizers share another terrible policy, the non-demarcation of borders, another proof of their vision of expansionist colonizers. Today, Palestine and Western Sahara share the same fight and the same fate by facing criminal twins, the Mahzen and the Zionist entity.
Facing a severe economic and social crisis, Moroccans have no choice but to illegally immigrate. Most of them live with the daily hope of crossing the sea in search of a better life. This dream sometimes breaks in the hands of the Spanish civil guards and often in a tragic way. Details with Najah Tayar.
The socio-economic situation in Morocco is driving more and more young people to leave for other countries. Economic crisis, price inflation, injustice and abusive arrests are undermining the population, who see no other prospect than exile in Europe, at the risk of losing their lives. The hostile waters, the tragedy of drowning and the civil guards of European countries do not deter Moroccans from leaving. They generally immigrate clandestinely using various methods on board makeshift boats, dugout canoes and even swimming. In recent years, the Mahzen has been at the center of a global migration issues and has become the main source of immigrants. But it is not only the economic reasons that drive Moroccans into exile. Many young people also cite a deep-rooted political and social malaise, and the repression of protest movements, particularly in the Rif, has led to a sense of injustice and social aggression among young people, and the level of despair made the condemned to exile prepared to risk their freedom and their lives several times over. The NGOs regularly report deadly shipwrecks, and unofficial figures put the death toll in Moroccan, Spanish and international waters in the hundreds. Although the Mahzen authorities claim to have thwarted thousands of attempts at illegal immigration in recent months, the fact remains that the complicity of their security services is one of the main factors encouraging these young people to set sail, by corrupting officials who are supposed to be the main guardians of the law, a law flouted and an entire system gangrened by corruption. This is not a new phenomenon, because the year 2014 was marked by one of the deadliest tragedies in the north of Morocco. At least 15 migrants drowned trying to reach the beach of Tarajal in Ceuta, and more recently, on June 24, 2022, almost 2,000 migrants of African origin tried to enter Spain via the enclave of Melilla in northern Morocco. 23 of them died in clashes with the police. This tragedy illustrates a new reality. There were never so many migrants lost their lives trying to cross the enclave of Melilla. In June 2023, around 50 Moroccan migrants disappeared off the coast of southern Morocco after attempting to reach Spain on board a clandestine boat off the coast of Agadir. The main Moroccan human rights NGO has called on the Mahsen authorities to investigate and intervene immediately to clarify the fate of their young migrants and identify the human trafficking and the irregular migration networks that have caused and continue to cause great tragedies in which senior Mahsen officials are involved.
And we end up today's news with food, as the simplicity of its recipe made it one of the most appreciated dishes in Algeria. It has different names, but the taste is the same. Let's discover more about this dish with Rania Al-Bahri.
Karan tikka is an iconic Algerian street food sold throughout Algeria by street vendors. This dish has Hispanic Oran origins and is based on chickpea flour, beaten eggs and salt, and is served with harissa and cumin, either hot on bread as a sandwich or sliced into squares.
It's a Spanish recipe. People say that it was created on a ship, where the part of chickpea flour was flooded and the chef was forced to use it. And they also say that on a castle of Santa Cruz there were soldiers who had nothing to eat, so they invented this recipe. The karantika is a small sandwich that doesn't cost much.
It comes from a Spanish word, caliente, which means hot, and is the most famous dish among the people of Oran.
Although tastes differ, fans of this dish add their grain of salt by garnishing the karantika sandwich with harissa and cumin, without altering the simplicity of this dish, which remains very popular and appreciated.
It's a very simple recipe based on oil, salt and chickpea flour.
It is a dish accessible to everyone, to wealthy and middle-income peoples, and even to people who don't have enough money.
It remains an incomparable, delicious sandwich loved by all classes in Algeria.
A popular dish which is part of the emblematics of Oran for its unique taste. It is today a culinary tradition which is part of the cultural and material heritage of Algeria.
That was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.